I think Apple's March 8th event exceeded everyone's expectation, mostly due to the unveiling of the M1 Ultra, alongside the Mac Studio and Studio Display. Let's be real, this is not the first video you're watching on this subject. I did order a Mac Studio as soon as the event was over. I will get to the specs I chose and why I chose them. But first, let's talk about M1. M1 Silicon has already shaken up the industry, so you could just imagine how I was feeling with the announcement of M1 Ultra. I've been using Mac Minis in my workflow for years now. Just a couple of years ago, I had a couple of Intel Mac Minis. I stuck them together to use them vertically. Not the best performance, but better than my MacBook Pro. Especially because I had two of them. That was until I upgraded to my M1 Mini. I was a bit skeptical at first, waiting to see if it could handle my workload, and it totally outperformed both of my Intel Mac Minis combined. I have the M1 Mac Mini base model. That means it has an 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. 8 GB of unified memory with 256 GB SSD. The speed and power of M1 has allowed me to freelance my editing services and establish the root of my production company. That also means that my workload will increase as I take on new clients and bigger projects. I was talking with my friend Tom when I referenced to him that I was in the market for a new computer. I asked him a couple of questions about his experience with his new MacBook Pro, and he said that it was the fastest computer that he had ever used. With that in mind, I was already budgeting for a MacBook Pro prior to the March 8th event. I already had a 14-inch MacBook Pro in my Apple bag ready for checkout, equipped with the base M1 Pro chip, which brings an 8-core CPU and a 14-core GPU. I selected 32 GB of unified memory with a 1TB SSD up from 512 GB, bringing my total to $2,599. Once the peak performance event was announced, I decided to wait and find out what Apple had up their sleeves. As a photographer, videographer, and content creator, the tools we use to create are very important. Photorealistic painters can tell you the differences between brushes, the bristles on those brushes, and the effects that you get from them. This is the same when it comes to the tools that you choose to create. As a photographer, I'm still using a 2013 Intel i7 MacBook Pro. It has a 15-inch Retina display, 16 GB of DDR3 memory, and 512 SSD. Great for editing all of my photos. Not the best for editing video. Knowing the benefits of desktop computing is why I picked up the two Intel Mac Minis, eventually moving my workflow over to the M1 Mac Mini. The way I was thinking, I would invest in the new MacBook Pro and have it pull double duties. It would replace my 2013 model for photo editing and take on the role of my main video editing machine. But I would mostly be using it for video editing, meaning that I will have it plugged into my dual displays, using it as a desktop replacement most of the time. This is because most of my current projects involve video editing. Granted, a setup like this could easily handle my workload, and that's pretty obvious, seeming that I'm currently using the M1 Mac Mini. As I continue to upgrade my skills, I'm looking into 3D rendering and animation, motion effects graphics, and more. As I continue to grow my production company, there's always room for upgrades. This brings us back to the peak performance event, and why I was like, what Apple has been able to do with M1 Ultra is revolutionary. Even before they announced prices, I knew that M1 Ultra was completely out of my league, over my budget, and complete overkill on my needs. After announcing that the Mac Studio would start with the M1 Max chip, Apple started to regain my attention. I got excited in the anticipation of the starting price and all the different configurations soon to be available. Once John revealed that it would start at $1999, I knew instantly that this was my next computer. Not to mention that I was already sticking Mac Minis together. I feel that this design speaks to me personally. Thanks, Tim. Good looking out. With the same budget as before, I was able to order the Mac Studio Max. Pro Max, right? With a 10-core CPU and a 24-core GPU. I upgraded to 64 gigabytes of unified memory with blazing 400 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth. I also selected 1 terabyte of storage. Then it was added to the bag. I feel the Mac Studio was designed for creators just like me, allowing me to get a substantial boost in performance without having to pay extra for 120Hz ProMotion displays, webcams, speakers, microphones, etc. Things that I already have. Don't get me wrong. The new MacBook Pros are amazing and beautiful computers. I was very close to having one as the newest member to the Camera Junkie family, but I could not pass up on the added performance and options that are available to me now. Because of the new Mac Studio, I no longer need to upgrade my MacBook Pro to pull double duties. I can simply upgrade to an M1 MacBook Air, with record-breaking battery life averaging around 22 hours on a single charge. The M1 MacBook Air can easily replace my 2013 MacBook Pro, and if I decide to go down that route, I would have both the power of the M1 Max in the Mac Studio and the flexibility and battery life of the M1 in the MacBook Air. Both for the price of $3,598, which is $100 less than a 16-inch MacBook Pro with similar specs. And that doesn't even put into account what Apple is conjuring up to be the successor of the Mac Pro. But that's for another day. My M1 Mac Mini is part of the roots of my productions, and this new Mac Studio will be the foundation of everything I create. Of course, I will do my best to put this computer through its paces, with a series of benchmarks and real-world case scenarios to give us real-world results. If you're interested in finding out how the new Mac Studio performs, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. My name's Louis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you.